So George Soros himself actually admitted that he's backing these prosecutors. Not that he needed to admit this. We can see where the campaign donations came from, but these are his words. He wrote a Wall Street Journal editorial called Why I Support Reform Prosecutors. Of course, he doesn't want to call them radically left district attorneys. This is what he said. This is why I have supported the election and more recently the re-election of prosecutors who support reform. I've done it transparently and I have no intention of stopping. The funds I provide enable sensible reform-minded candidates to receive a hearing from the public. Judging by the results, the public likes what it's hearing. Blah, blah, blah. Obviously, the public does not like what it's hearing. It just comes down to money. But it's funny that he says, I have given money to for the election and re-election of these candidates because I agree with their political philosophy, how they're not prosecuting violent crimes. It's from the guy's own mouth. So he says it, we recognize it, the left tells us that we're hateful for recognizing that means that we hate Jews. I don't think so. So obviously, this is a distraction, right? Obviously, the left doesn't want us to focus on what's happening in cities, the crime wave that's happening across our country, how the Democrats have created this problem, how they refuse to fix it even when they have the opportunity. And so it's deeper than that, though. It's a little bit deeper than that. They don't want us to talk about who George Soros is because his name has become a little bit oversaturated in the past 15 years. Almost every conservative has heard of George Soros and his open society's philosophy and what he does with his money, giving billions of dollars to radically leftist causes. And so the name we've almost become desensitized to his name, but we shouldn't, because if you look at what George Soros is doing across the nation, he is one of the most dangerous individuals our nation has ever faced from within. He is one of the biggest threats to our constitutional republic. He is actively destabilizing our cultural institutions and even some governmental institutions with the express goal of abolishing our economy, our free market society, the way that it is, and implementing who knows what. Redistribution of wealth. These are all his words. So George Soros embraces the term open society as defined by a philosopher by the name of Karl Popper. This is what Soros argues. Let's use his own words here. He says, the spread of market values into all areas of life is endangering our open and democratic society. He said, the main enemy of an open society is capitalism. These are George Soros' words. He said, laissez-faire capitalism has effectively banished income or wealth redistribution. And then he argues for the government to forcibly spread the wealth around. So this man with billions of dollars who funds radical leftist causes has admitted that he does so because they serve his political agenda. He has defined his own political agenda as wanting to abolish capitalism. If you abolish capitalism, what are you left with? You're not left with a blank slate. You're not left with the communist idea of collective ownership. You're left with either socialism or a few elitists, maybe an oligarchy, who run the country and choose winners and losers, distribute money based on who they think deserves the money and who they think doesn't deserve the money, perhaps more importantly. George Soros has supported policies like this here in the United States. In Los Angeles, for example, he supported reparations for Black people. This is a redistribution of wealth type scheme. George Soros supported this. George Soros admitted that he wants to use crises in our nation in order to transition our society into the society that he envisions. This is what he said. He wanted to use COVID as a way to dismantle capitalism. His words, and I quote, the scale of this pandemic has laid bare the fault lines and injustices of our world. We missed the opportunity to create a more just economy after the financial crisis of 2008 and provide a social safety net for the workers who are the heart of our societies. Today, we must change direction and ask ourselves what kind of world will emerge from this catastrophe. He's making this speech this press release while he's donating money for quote unquote COVID causes. What kind of world will emerge from this catastrophe and what can we do to make it a better one? How does he define a better world? Open borders, the sex trafficking, the rape of women, the cartel violence that we see on our southern border. That is what George Soros wants. The non-prosecution of violent crime that we saw in San Francisco, which led to the recall of the Soros-backed prosecutor Chesa Boudin, who, by the way, is the son of convicted domestic terrorists, not prosecuting violent crime the way that the Manhattan district attorney is not prosecuting violent crime, or the district attorney backed by Soros in Los Angeles is not prosecuting violent crime. George Soros, his goal, when he talks about quote-unquote reform-minded prosecutors, he wants to reduce the population in our prison by 50%. Half of the people who are serving jail time right now because they were convicted of some offense so serious against other people and against society that a jury of their peers determined that they should serve time in prison for this, George Soros wants them let free. And he wants others like them never put in prison in the first place. His Open Society Foundation, he has given $18 billion to, and the Open Society Foundation is sort of ironic because the left, especially leftists like AOC, constantly condemn Republican dark money, but the Open Society Foundation is the literal definition of a dark money group. There's no transparency on donors, none. It's a dark money group, and yet the left is tight-lipped about this. The left wouldn't dream of criticizing George Soros, maybe because they think it's anti-Semitic. I don't know. Regardless, he gives $1 billion a year to left-wing organizations like the ACLU, Planned Parenthood, the Robin Hood Foundation, the Tides Foundation. These are very, very far leftist groups. The Brennan Center for Justice, the Alliance for Citizenship. The goal of these individual organizations are to give citizenship to all illegal immigrants who are in our country and simultaneously having an open border so as many as they want can continue to cross our borders and subsequently gain citizenship. He wants to increase the number of people on welfare in our nation. He wants to raise taxes. Why? Because he thinks that that's the best way for the government to spread the wealth around, to take from the rich and give to the poor. In 2016, George Soros gave $33 million to Black Lives Matter, the Black Lives Matter movement, different organizations associated with BLM. $33 million. In 2015 to 2018, he donated money to Black Lives Matter, to Color of Change, to Unidos US, that's formerly, by the way, the National Council of La Raza. We talked a little bit about that group when USA Today did those profiles of the top 20 women of 2022. And they highlighted a woman who was associated with this crazy radical group. He gave money to the NAACP,